thanks very much for joining us for the Everton review. First, hopefully, of many. Joined tonight, I'm Nick Murnock, by the way. I'm joined tonight by Dawn Keogh and by Callum Murnock. Going to have a little bit of a chat, really, about what's going on around Everton and what's coming up. I think there's quite an important game at the weekend, but we'll get onto that a little bit later. First and foremost, I think really what we normally would do is chat about the last performance, but that's a couple of weeks ago now. And thankfully, a lot of our players have gone off on international duty and I think performed pretty well. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, obviously, been some good performances, some goals. Obviously, Charlton's picked up a goal for Brazil, nicking it off Firmino, which is always nice to see. Obviously, Gylfi scored 2 for Iceland in their big playoff game, which was good. And I think he played striker in there, which is a bit different for Sigurdsson. Didn't think he had the legs for that, but obviously he's good in and around the box and he's put in a good shift. And yeah, and obviously the star man at the minute for us, big DCL, got his first goal for England. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah, I think didn't Dean get man of the match as well, and he's in the UEFA team of the week.
Oh, yeah, did you see his ball for the goal?
I haven't seen it.
Oh my God, that's some goal. Pogba pings it over to him on the left-hand side. First time ball on his left foot over to, I think it was Giroud, I'm not really sure. And he scored off it. It was a brilliant goal.
It's nice to see so many Everton players performing on an international standard, isn't it? It's been few and far between for a while, but you know, a lot of the focus is on the England one. So what did we think of DCL's performance?
Thought he did all right. I think England's lost its way a bit in terms of service to the forwards. You know, it was a decent goal, but I don't think the other players around him are creating enough.
Yeah, I agree with Dawn there a little bit, especially with the Wales game. I thought England was so disappointing defending in a 5, and we were literally letting Wales have the ball. And there was times where DCL hadn't touched it for a good 20 minutes, but I think his performances were good. And I think obviously with Martinez, did you see what he said about that he's as good as any English number 9? Obviously with Kane out there is nice to see, and I think his hold-up play was really good for England, and he obviously got the goal he deserved.
Absolutely. I think I found it quite funny in the Belgium game, to be honest with you, when they took DCL off, brought Kane on. And the first thing Kane did is miss pretty much a free header, which we all probably went, well, if he'd left DCL on, he probably would have buried that. So there was a bit of an irony there on that.
Let's not get Kane too quick, though. You know how good he is.
Oh, he is quality. But yeah, you sort of thought, and I think he didn't get enough time against Denmark. But then looking at that was just pretty shocking performance all around, wasn't it? So
it's good for us that, though. I'd rather our players not be involved in the internationals than playing, because they're staying fit for Everton, aren't they?
Yeah.
So when I seen he was on the bench, I was made up. Don't know about you two.
Yeah, I was glad that Michael Keane didn't make the squad as well.
Yeah, good shout on Keane as well, who's been really good, I think, at the minute.
Yeah.
Again, the irony, isn't it? You know, Keane doesn't play, and then you look at that absolute nightmare that Harry Maguire had, and you know, it's strange. Some of Southgate's decisions confuse me a lot, but it works for us. So injury wise, we not picked much up, have we? I think, apart from Dean, maybe.
Is he definitely injured? Is he?
He came off, didn't he, with about the last 10-15 minutes? I think I saw somewhere sort of. I noticed somebody on Twitter today trying to tweet in French, asking him, was he going to be fit for the derby? You got to love our fans. They're into everything everywhere, aren't they? So it's one of them. But yeah, I think that's the only one.
Yeah, I think the only other concern is, I think James played on Tuesday for Colombia. So when he can actually get into training, same with Yerry Mina, it's probably going to be Thursday at the earliest. But I suppose when you're as good as James, do you need to train? I don't think so.
Isn't Mina injured as well? I heard something about that.
I think he might have done. Yeah. Last game, wasn't he? He played one, didn't he? And then I don't think he played the last game. And I read somewhere that, yeah.
But I think what we could speak about is, of course, the new signing, Ben Godfrey, since the last game. What have you guys seen of him?
I watched a video on YouTube of all his best bits.
He always look good then, don't he, Dawn?
He looked really good, yeah, and I'm like, he looks like a great signing. But when I think back to playing Norwich, the only defender I really remember was the right back of the Aarons, which I thought was pretty good.
Yeah, I would have liked Aaron this year, but I do think Coleman started the season well.
Yeah, yeah. So Ben Godfrey, hopefully he is like the YouTube clips, but I don't actually remember him when we played him or seeing him play.
What have you seen, Nick?
I've seen he's got pretty quick hand speed when I've seen the one of him boxing more than anything. I'm thinking,
Oh, he's a unit, isn't he?
yeah.
At least we'll have someone hard on the team.
Yeah, if there's a bit of a ruck going on in the derby on Saturday, I hope he's playing. Yeah,
He's quick with his hands there and powerful.
I think, yeah, I know. I think so, but it's looking promising. I mean, we've all got eyes on the last tomorrow, isn't it? I think before the EPL option shuts. What do we think of the rumours of Josh King, Everton player or not?
Well, we've let Moise Keane go, and we've let Walcott go. We haven't got enough reinforcements for me, so he's someone that we're rumoured to have been looking at for a while. I think he could probably play anywhere in the front three, so he's, he'd be a good option, not to start, but on the bench.
Yeah, I agree with Dawn. I mean, I was a bit disappointed on, obviously, the transfer deadline day when we didn't sign another striker, and it was sort of rumoured that we would get one, obviously with Keane going out. So I think King, he's got Premier League quality, he scored quite a few good goals, and as Dawn said, he can play across the front three, and I think he'd had some goals, but whether we'll make that transfer with having Cenk Tosun still at the club, probably on about, 70, 80 grand. So I think maybe they might be thinking Cenk might be the backup, but we can't but see. I would like him, and again, he's a player with pace and power.
He's injured though, Tosun, isn't he? Is it Christmas he's out till?
Is it Christmas, is it?
I think, isn't he? I don't know. I know when I sure I read something that said he wasn't going to move until he was recovered, and that was going to take some period of time. But yeah, you may be right. I tend to sort of see where Dawn's coming from. I think if you can get King for the right price, he's scored at the Premier League. It's probably an option, even if it is coming off the bench or a bit of backup. Although I was reading today, a couple of people within the club putting a lot of pressure on the young lads. Sam Ellis, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's always hard though, isn't it, coming from the 23s up to men's first team football. So I think Ancelotti's probably got Richarlison. If anything would happen to Calvert-Lewin, that he'd play centrally before. I think he'd look to put Sims or Tosun or whoever we might sign in.
It's just... Sorry, go on, Nick.
No, go on, Dawn.
I was just going to say, if he was to move Richarlison centrally, it's just the number of bodies we've got then to play in one of the wider positions, because Walcott and Keane have both gone, haven't they? So that's 2 down. We probably... I think Josh King is rumoured for 40.5 million, which isn't loads these days. So.
Yeah, it's hard to snip it, yeah.
It is when you look at West Ham throwing, 30 million at that lad from Brentford, potentially. So, it's not an extortionate price, you're right. Well, we've allegedly got a lot of money. We could probably afford that, couldn't we? We've wasted a lot worse on some worse players, I think, haven't we, over the years? So,
you're right.
Yeah. So if we are sort of looking at, wow, we have wasted some money, then how do we think sort of so far that the signings that we brought in looks better value for money, do you think?
Definitely, yeah. All of them. I mean, like, James is probably the most notable one for the influence he's got on the creativity, but Alan, for me, we missed in centre midfield. We were so weak last season. And I know you were laughing and joking about Godfrey being there for a fight. I know he's only little, but I wouldn't want to have a fight with Alan because he's stocky, isn't he?
I agree, yeah, he's got muscle on him.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I agree. The signings have been terrific. It's probably, I mean, I know it's only 4 games in and we don't want to get carried away too much, but the way they've shaped the team has just been unbelievable. I mean, as Dawn was saying, Alan's been fantastic. He's shepherding teams away from our box. He's tenacious. He's out. He's forcing teams back. His interception's been good. James, I think, just put a smile on everyone's face. The way he can pick the ball up in between the lines, he's whisking the ball away from opponents. And then we just love that switch over to Luca Dean every time he gets it. And it's unstoppable. So, yeah, I think they've been brilliant. And, I mean, can't forget Decore as well, who's just doing a simple but really effective box-to-box job. and he's got the engine for it. And I think that's shown on the first game of the season, you know, where he came back off Tottenham counter on a corner and he ran all the way back. And I think it was Son who he ran through Almora and tackled him on the ball. So, yeah, signings have been fantastic.
Absolutely. I mean, and we're not forgetting the young lad we brought in first, and Conker, he's looking pretty decent, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying to some of the lads this week, I know Luca Dina be such a miss, but if we had him in the derby, I wouldn't be phased. I wouldn't be going, oh no, we've got Nkunku in here. I think he really can go in and do a job now, which is good, and credit to Brands for bringing him in.
I think he can defend, though, I suppose, being Mr. Miserable Ed in this conversation. We've seen him go well against some of the lower leagues, but have we seen him defend?
Yeah, from what I've seen. Go on, Dawn, sorry.
Go on.
Oh, from what I've seen, I mean, he's quick, powerful, isn't he? And he's not being beat by them, so that's all we can go off, really. I know we played against West Ham, had a fairly solid game, so for me, I think he probably will be able to defend. Obviously, we'll just see how it goes.
Yeah, I think creatively going forward, some of his moves, the back heel for Keane to score, I can't even remember what game that was, but creatively he's great, and sort of going defensively. I thought against West Ham he did all right defensively. I just think against like a Liverpool or one of the top six, he might struggle, but he's definitely got the potential to fill in, definitely.
No doubt. I suppose, which brings it to people who want to have a poke at us are all going, yeah, okay, you might have bought a couple of decent players, but you get a couple of injuries to them and you're back to that same team of last season. So what do we think? Do we think we're flaky if we get a couple of injuries, or are we seeing Ancelotti bringing last year's average players up to a standard?
I think, I personally think there's been a shift in mentality. So I think some of the games where we've gone behind, or we've, was it the West Ham game where there was a period where it was a difficult period, and last season I don't think we would have won the game, whereas this season mentally they all look like they're in the right place, and Sigurdsson and Tom Davis, when they come in, they're doing a better job because they're surrounded by better players, and I think that's mentally, and also the tactics and the strategies that Carlo's bringing in.
Yeah, I agree with Dawn too. I think the mentality has changed, and I think with better players coming into the team, it's lifting everyone's levels. I mean, as Dawn's mentioned there, Sigurdsson, I think he's knocking right on the door to start for the derby. I'm a big fan of Gomez, but I really do think Sigurdsson's played well, and you can see the strength and depth in each position. Obviously, you've got Gordon coming through, who was starting toward the end of last year. Iwobi, they're two options off the bench and to come in. Fabian Delph was really good against West Ham, so maybe finally we can get a player out of him, which we were a bit unsure of. So I think the strength and depth, obviously we've got 4 good centre-halves now as well, with Holgate, Keane, Mina and Godfrey coming in. And I think Godfrey can play in sitting midfield if needed. So I think there is a lot of strength and depth in the team now.
Don't forget about Holgate.
Yeah, can't forget Holgate. He's a good player.
Yeah.
I think you're right, and I think there were stories going around that even after the Blackpool friendly, Ancelotti laid into them to say he wasn't content with anything that to replicate last year's performances, which is really good because if people have read Ancelotti's book, he talks a lot about being a quiet leader and not sort of getting agitated too often. But there's examples within the book that he can lose it. So I think clearly he is able to deal with underperformers, and that's what I think a lot of us wanted to see because of the frustrations of last year, wasn't it? We just weren't seeing performances.
Yeah.
What do we make of Balassi? If he doesn't go on the 16th tomorrow, do we see him getting an opportunity or not? And do you think he should get an opportunity?
I think he's been told, well, rumours, it's the press, obviously. I'd read that he'd been told he was surplus to requirements. It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because we're carrying so many players that if they're not getting a chance, sort of, we're paying them anyway.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. No, man, I was just going to say, I sort of have an air of sympathy for Balassi. I know he's been taking some stick, but the end of the day, when he came and when he settled in, and certainly his partnership with Lukaku, he was looking good and he was feeding Lukaku well. Then he got that injury, and to be fair to him, whether it was him or whether it was the club, but he stayed on the pitch when really, when you look at the severity of his injury, he should have gone straight off. And he suffered from there. And it takes a long, long time to come back from those kind of knee injuries. So there's a little bit of me, and maybe this is the sympathetic vote. I'd love to see him get back to some level of being a player and performing. But as Dawn says, the rumours in sort of Twitter land and social media is Ancelotti's already made his mind up. So it's going to be one to tell. What about yourself?
I agree with both points. I can completely see what Dawn's saying with what is the point in paying him 70 grand a week if he's not going to get a game. But I do think his attitude's been good whilst he's not been getting a game. But I do agree with Dawn. If he's not in the plans, we need to loan him out maybe to a championship team tomorrow who's willing to maybe at least pay 10, 20 grand of his wage, and it's more money saved for us. But you can't fault his attitude since he's not been in the team and he's just been around the training ground.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the way he came on at Preston. I mean, he did look like a madman, just sort of jumping into tackles left, right and centre, didn't he? But he was clearly...
from 2 yards out.
Yeah, there's that as well. Like, yeah, but if you forget all that, like, yeah, he was all right. No, but clearly, you're right. He wants to make an impression. And, yeah, I think the good thing is if Ancelotti can recycle some of these players who we thought we'd seen the last of, there's an improvement there as well. But I think we are looking stronger, which is what we all wanted to see, I think. And it takes us forward. So I suppose sort of moves us round. The last real big issue of this week has been Man United and Liverpool's move to try and dominate and restructure the Premier League to suit their own ends. What do we think of that?
I think what the things that I've read in The Guardian and somewhere else about Denise Baxendale, standing up for the club, standing up for the fans, and there's other clubs that apparently kept stum, didn't say anything. My personal opinion is that, you know, Liverpool won the league after 30 years, and then this plan comes out, and which is taking control, because I learned before that they wanted the top six to veto any new ownership scheme. So if those Saudis come back in for Newcastle, the likes of Liverpool will be able to say, well, no, because you're going to have too much money and you're going to compete with us. And I don't understand on what planet that's fair.
I agree with
what about you?
I same view. I just thought, you know, I mean, again, I've seen lots of comings and goings and changing things. Even the ethos and the introduction of the Premier League caused kerfuffle at the time, but this clearly was a land grab by 6 clubs who thought they could then dominate it. You know, it's interesting that it's the American influences of those clubs trying to get something around the American Football League where there's no relegation, so it continues to guarantee the success should they have a bad season or not. It was just fraught all the way round, and for me, it was just a blackmail situation. They knew the EPL clubs are desperate for money, so they're trying to blackmail their support by offering them a little handful of money to sell everybody down the line. Now, it was a non-starter for me, and I thought it was pretty disingenuous the way they went about it, but nothing surprises me now with the amount of money that's involved in the Premier League. Cal?
I think you have covered it both. I'm happy with that one.
Yeah.
Just focus on Everton.
Well, I'm with Dawn. I love the fact that Denise has stepped in and really put a foot and marker down on that. It's good to see that sort of she's clearly listened and then moved, and that's probably been indicative of the way that Denise has led this football club over the whole lockdown period. I think there's been a lot of dignity in what's been going on. So I'm sure others may disagree, but that's what it is. But I'm sure we've not heard the last of it, because they were desperately trying to make changes at the last minute. I mean, Everton were invited in, weren't they? The day before it collapsed, they moved from the big 6 to the big 9 and brought West Ham and Everton and others into that voting right. So they were clearly trying to manipulate it. So you can bet your life they're going to be back with another go at it. They're not going to let this go lightly. But for now, I think it is what it is. And so rolls us around to 12:30 on Saturday. Where do we want to start with this? What are we thinking?
The There's been so many times before, as Evertonians, we're always negative, aren't we? And we do need to change that if the players and Ancelotti's making the club more positive. But I think form goes out the window, doesn't it? There's been times when we've gone to Anfield, we've been the informed team, and we've got an absolute hiding. So, what about you?
I'm similar. Again, I've sort of seen a lot of derbies, and I never fail to be disappointed a lot of the time. And despite what we've got, I mean, okay, I was lucky to be around in sort of the 80s, late 80s when we dominated and we did win derbies, and a little bit after that we were competitive. The gap's grown the last 10 years massively. We can't deny it, and as much as it pains us to say, I think the last one I thought we were pretty much going to win was when Roy Hodgson was in charge of Liverpool. That year he took over them. They were in disarray when they came to Goodison, and we did do them. Beyond that, I'm a pessimist. I seldom go in thinking we're going to win it. So again, whilst the omens are good for Saturday, who knows? Cal, you've seen some disappointments as well, mate. Where are you sitting?
Well, yeah, last time we won, I was 13. I'm 23 now, so I think that just speaks it all. 10 years without a derby win, but yeah, I'm the same as you two. I think any Blue that you speak to is just going to be pessimistic. I mean, we couldn't even beat the kids' team in January. I think that's the most embarrassed I've ever been in a football stadium, being there at Anfield when the practical 23s are beating us. So we can't go in thinking we're going to beat their full 11. And I mean, the Reds are playing it down, saying, oh, we really think you're going to win this time. They love saying that. Let's be honest, they're still favourites. They won the league by a landslide last year. They are still favourites. Their squad, as much as I hate to say it, is fantastic. So don't let them tell you that otherwise.
Yeah, I think, like you say, that the defeat to the kids was an all-time low. And I think possibly that's the big thing that's different, not just the quality on the pitch, but the mentality, because the mentality was all wrong right then. And if Ancelotti was in charge now and we were in that position, even without the players that we bought, I think it would be different. But the big thing for me is if we come off losers and it's a bad defeat, then maybe the mentality will get dented or whatever, I don't know. But if we win, it's a big move forward for the club, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's what I'm worried about with such a fantastic start. We're 4 out of 4, and it shouldn't really matter if we lose or we win or draw or whatever, because of that good start, and it won't matter on the table. But it's, as you said, will that affect us mentally going forward? Because it's a brilliant start, and we want to build on it, and a win would literally just lift us so much. I honestly think some of us would start believing we could go top 4 and beyond if we could beat them on Saturday, but let's see.
What do Liverpool come out with then? Because they've got to be smart after getting pasted by Villa. I mean, does that unnerve them? Is it in the back of their heads? Or are we sort of probably playing them at the wrong time because they're wounded and they're going to come back with a bump?
No, I think they're going to be at it. They're not going to come out all shabby after a 7-2 defeat to Villa. I think Liverpool will come out quick, and I think they'll probably dominate the early stages. So I wouldn't be surprised to see us defend similar to how we did when we restarted. I think we'll defend low in a low block, and I think we'll try and nick the ball in the middle third. I think that's when we'll go and press. I think the most important thing for us is, and I don't know if you'll both agree, is we need to stop their fullbacks from getting space. So I think as soon as they get into the middle third of the pitch, we need to be out at them and we need to be on the press quick, because they can't have any time on the ball because they'll link up, and they are good at that, aren't they?
Yeah, if you look at the games that they've struggled even last season against West Ham and Leicester, it's when the two fullbacks have been pinned back. So, and if you look at the masterclass from Villa, like their strategy was to do the switch and to press Alexander back, because he might be great going forward, but he's not great defensively, and that's an area for me that we should be exploiting.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think he, I'm going to be critical of Alexander-Arnold. He's a great player, but yeah, there is some question marks over that. But his for what he lacks defending, he makes up with a delivery into the box. And I think, you know, we've got to stop that coming in. Same with Andy Robertson. They are good fullbacks that deliver a lot of good ball into the box. But, you know, Villa certainly showed signs. Whether Liverpool will do the high press again with the defensive line, I don't know. I mean, they without being rude, it was a one-off game, but they looked to be found out by Villa, and Villa continued to break holes in that way around. So is Klopp a man for changing, or is he just going to go, I was a bad day at the office?
I don't think he's going to change his philosophy, but I think that's somewhere where we've got to look to exploit that high line that they're going to play. And I think, especially Ross Barkley, Villa's runners from deep really caused them problems. So I think we'll be maybe looking to get Richarlison in from deep. I think he'll start wide left, and can he make the runs in deep? And I wouldn't be surprised if Sigurdsson did start and he was making runs in from deep in behind. So I think if we can make runs in behind that high line, we can cause them issues. And I think, as Dawn said, if we can get 1v1 with Trent, let's see what we can do to him.
It could be who defends the best as well, couldn't it? Because if you look at, you know, Pickford pulls off world-class saves and then he makes a stupid mistake, and obviously they're missing Alisson and they've got Adrian in goal. It could be a tale of two goalkeepers, but like both attacks are pretty good now. It's who defends the best, maybe.
Yeah, is Alisson back or is Adrian going to be in?
Adrian in.
Because that's a big factor. You can see when Liverpool play, when Adrian's in, they just have got no confidence, and I think that was part of the 7-2 defeat to Villa. Obviously, you can't just pin it on him. But when Alisson's in, they just reap confidence. I think they've got loads. So I think that'll be a big positive for us if Adrian is in.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly, I agree. I think it is going to be a reserve keeper. But, I mean, there's again rumours bubbling around that they're going to go and try and pick Butland up, aren't they, tomorrow? But
seen the state of him at the minute. I can play him if they want.
Well, I was just going to say, without being disparaging, you know, you're throwing in a keeper who has stayed in the Championship because he had a distinct lack of confidence. So it's less of two options for them, whichever they go with. And I you done fundamental sort of point, because if you're not comfortable with your goalkeeper playing well, then you sit that little bit deeper, or you're a little bit more cautious in how you play football with him. I think that might be a factor. Saying that, he may turn out to have an absolute worldie. We've seen that before as well. I mean, you go back to that cup semi-final we lost when they had the young kid Jones in goal, and we all thought, we're definitely going to do it with this one. And he played out of his skin as well, didn't he? Typical Everton.
Clever, yeah. And I think as well, I mean, like Van Dijk, you can't argue that he's definitely one of the best centre-halves in the world. But for me, he plays like a sweeper and he hates to mark, and he's always like this, pointing his fingers, telling people where to go, which, is great to organise. But when he's made mistakes when teams have pressed on him and he's got a mark. So you'd assume they take Gomez out and they maybe put Fabinho in there with, what's his name, the new guy? Thiago and Henderson are both back, aren't they? And obviously Mane's back. But I think if DCL can get in around Van Dijk, put him under pressure, hopefully he'll score another Oggy again.
I was hoping I hope Gomez will play, because as you say, I think DCL can defo exploit Gomez, and I think he can absolutely dominate him in the air. But whether they just pass him over and switch on, we don't know. But Gomez will be a good one as a blue to play, because I think he's looked a little bit dodgy at the minute for them. So we can but see.
I think you make a good point about Mane as well. I mean, they massively missed him last game, and the games he doesn't play, they don't seem to play as well. So, you know, disappointingly, if he is back, he's back. But I just think we're a different team this year, and I really do think that, you know, people will influence it. But how do we think Rodriguez will play? Do you think he'll find the space in this game as he's found it so easily in other games?
I think it'll be interesting what they do, because the only way to stop him, I mean, some teams have put two on him and it hasn't stopped him. So if they put two on him, there's obviously space for someone else coming through the middle, isn't there? It's one of them that's sort of going to... I don't think Klopp will change his tactics to suit us particularly. So hopefully he does get space. What do you think, Al?
Yeah, I agree. And I think we give them such a license to go and roam across that whole forward line, if you know what I mean, and to find little gaps in obviously Liverpool's line and other midfielders' lines to see if we can break them. So I think he'll keep picking up the pockets of space. I think he's just that intelligent as a player that that's what he'll do. So yeah, I've got no qualms. I think James will be there ready for them on Saturday.
Kill one in the 89th minute. That'll do me fine. Then we don't have to sweat too long.
As long as it's not 3-0 to them by then.
Yeah.
The 94th minute, even better.
Yeah, the last time. I've not got any hair left to pull out now, so I can't be doing with any more of that. So, I mean, sorry.
Do you know who the ref is?
No, I haven't actually. I suppose I should know. I saw somebody rather jokingly said, well, because Liverpool's shut down now, we'll have to have Mike Dean because he lives in the area, which I'm sure that's not true.
Oh, it's because I think that in the derby is a big, massive thing. I mean, like, the last one, Richarlison was getting hacked left, right and centre, and Rodriguez is definitely going to be on the hit list when you're talking about him. So I think the referee will have a massive impact, whoever it is. And none of them seem to like us.
No, we never seem to get one, and it'll be interesting, won't it? It brings us quickly to the lack of fans in the stadium. The sort of, does that make a real difference? It probably makes a difference with the players because of there's half the time they need the fans to get behind them. The other time, as we know, some of our fans are a little less than patient and have destroyed a few players over the years. So it works two ways, but it's the same with the referees, isn't it? Referees are put under pressure at Goodison with a cauldron of noise. That's going to be missing. So, do we think the lack of fans will have a little difference in how this turns out?
Interestingly, did you see Pickford's interview yesterday after the Denmark game? He picked up on, he thought the referee was influenced by the Danish players asking for a penalty, and he give it.
Yeah.
So I suppose the influences are sort of switch, because they can hear the players so well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it works both ways. I think, as you say, we aren't the most patient of fans, and I think we do urge the team forward, and it can sometimes work fantastically for us. We can pin teams back, or again, we can be a bit rash and we'll give the ball away and we won't play very well, and the atmosphere goes down and down from there. So yeah, it's a bit of a muchness. I think there's disadvantages and advantages in both.
So that probably brings us round to the last minute or so of the show. And so go on then. I guess we can't not throw a prediction on the table. What are we thinking?
Go on, Dawn.
Oh, yeah, pass the book to me first. I'm going to go with a win for us. Part of it is because I didn't know, but Seamus Coleman's hardly been present in the derby. And if he's fit and ready to go, I'm going to... My ears are standing on end as I'm saying it. We're going to win. I don't know what score, but we're going to win. Yeah.
I'll agree with you. I've sort of got 2-1 in my head. I think it'll be gritty, but I think, yeah, you from what we've seen, you've got to hope we've just got that little bit to do it this time round. So yeah, go on. I'll go 2-1.
2-1. We'll have a bit of that. I think it's a similar derby to Martinez's first season when both teams looked really good in the league and it was really exciting. I mean, I'm actually excited about the derby. I think as a game, it's going to be good. So I think it'll be high scoring. I think it'll be high scoring draw. I'm going to go 2-2.
Okay, so there we go. A few opinions. Hopefully, a few things to talk about. But thanks for listening. My thanks to Dawn and to Cal, and we'll see you again next time.